On aura un invité qui a fait le voyage transatlantique. Il est venu spécialement des États-Unis pour faire ce speech, mini speech de 5 minutes. C'est le CEO de la National US Arab Chamber of Commerce et le président et CEO de la National US Arab Chamber of Commerce, M. David Hammond, qui va nous présenter les US-Africa Commercial Relations and American Perspective.
Assalamu alaikum. In the Arab world, we say, Eid wahda ma btza'if. One hand alone cannot clap. Une seule main ne peut pas applaudir. It's all about the partnerships, the partenariat. And in this spirit of partnership, I want to thank the TABC for the opportunity to be here today. I'm pleased and proud to be back in Tunisia at the apex of the continent, the jewel in the crown of Africa. Tunisia's strategic location makes it perfect for triangulation between Tunisia, Africa, and other parts of the world. Par exemple, triangulation entre la Tunisie, l'Afrique et des États-Unis. The Maghreb countries in general are well positioned, and Tunis in particular, to serve as gateways to the continent. In my job, I see a lot of commonalities between the Arab world and Africa. For one thing, sadly, we're fighting negative stereotypes. Even a former president of the United States had some very uncharitable things to say about Africa. In my opinion, I would argue that such stereotypes are based on ignorance and misunderstanding. We must work to demolish these stereotypes that divide us. And the best way to do that is to come together, as we're doing here at the conference today. In America, there's a perception that Africa is far away. But in fact, we're closer together than we've ever been before. Every week, there are over 200 non-stop flights between the United States and Africa. It's important, of course, for Africa to balance its political portfolio and to build close relationships with many countries in the world, as this conference has shown us. But I would be remiss in my responsibilities as head of the chamber if I didn't talk about why I think America makes a great partner for Africa. There are many reasons for this, but I will mention just 5. Number 1, this conference is about investment. And US companies have the largest investment portfolios in the world. Number 2, the United States has taken the lead in generating the most innovative technologies in the world. There's a lot of competition in that space, but I believe that US companies are consistently leading the pack when it comes to research and development. Number 3, America is a reliable partner across all supply chains and value chains. In these days of climate change, in the face of growing challenges and shortages around the world, reliability and sustainability and food security is more important than it's ever been. Number 4, in higher education, all things being equal, I would say that the United States has the best colleges and universities in the world, and that most families like to send their children to study in the United States. And number 5, the diversity of the United States makes it unparalleled. You can find pockets of every culture from all over the world in the USA. That includes the African American community. There are historic African American community members who've been there for generations, and there are recent immigrants from Africa who've decided to make the United States their home. Because the United States is the world's most successful melting pot, immigrants to the United States are rapidly assimilated to American culture. And as a result, they become community leaders. They're raising families, they're creating thousands of new companies every single day, and they're part of the social fabric of the United States. So from my perspective, really the question is, how can any of us afford not to partner with Africa? The continent's population is expected to make up 1/5 of the global population by 2030 and 1/4 of the global population by 2050. Africa today is the world's youngest continent, with 60% of the world's population under 25 years old. And Africa boasts some of the fastest growing economies in the world, and that means opportunities in infrastructure. The United States has been the driving force behind the G7 Build Back Better World, which addresses infrastructure needs in low and moderate income nations. African nations are expected to benefit more than any other, with hundreds of billions of dollars going primarily to infrastructure, but also spurring private capital, private investment in climate, health, digital technology, and equality. Another U.S. initiative, Prosper Africa, was rolled out in Africa 2 years ago, right here in Tunisia. Since that time, the U.S. government has directly supported over 800 two-way trade and investment opportunities in 45 African nations, totaling $50 billion. These government programs are important, and through free trade agreements, they often open the doors for private businesses. But at the end of the day, it's the private sector that's doing the deals. And even when we sometimes face hiccups, challenges in our government-to-government relationships, the private sector will find a path forward. That's what we do. Finally, as you heard this morning, the future is all about youth. Today's decision makers have a responsibility to create an environment that nurtures entrepreneurship and the next generation of global business leaders. Former Secretary of State Colin Powell, himself an American of African descent, once said, "Hope begins with a paycheck. L'espoir commence avec un chèque de paiement." In that spirit, let us put our hands together to lift up these future leaders for the peoples of Africa and their partners, including the United States. Let's make this a true win-win. Vraiment gagnant-gagnant. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Wassalamu alaikum. Avec plaisir.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was David Hammond, President and CEO of National U.S. Arab Chamber of Commerce, who had very briefly explained his view on U.S.-Africa commercial relations. We are moving now